Hello, and welcome to our Hot Sauce Releases webinar, AI-Driven Path to Quality, the Sauce Labs Product Roadmap. My name is Larry Goldman. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Sauce Labs, and joining me today from the product management team is Senior Product Manager Ed Lavalette. This is actually the first webinar in a series that we have this winter and spring. And I think I just want to remind everybody that you can sign up for any of these webinars. Our next one in February is around a new product, the Real Device Access API. It gives unrestricted device access. It's pretty amazing how deep you can go in and what you can do with it. We'll be talking about that. In March, we're going to talk about Sauce AI for test authoring. And Ed and I are going to touch on that today. So you'll get a taste of that, but we'll go much more in depth in March. And the fourth one we have planned so far is around our expert consulting and professional services. We've changed that a lot in the last half year, and we want you to understand as a customer how we can help you. This is a roadmap webinar, so we really are, we need to start, of course, with a safe harbor statement. And you don't really have to read this, but what it basically says, if you're not familiar, is that there's going to be a lot of forward-looking statements here. We're going to talk about things that we plan to do, things that we want to do, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to happen in the order we talk about or the timing we talk about. So it's a way for us to just tell you that we have a lot of intent and a lot of excitement around what we've got coming up, but don't hold us exactly at our word because things can change.
Yes, and as the product manager, I appreciate that sentence, Larry.
Yes, indeed. Flexibility. Yeah. So
Yes.
here's our agenda for today. It's pretty simple. We'll do a quick introduction. Then we're going to introduce Sauce AI, which we are extremely excited about. We've been working on for a while, been talking about for a while, but we're going to get into a little more depth here. Then we'll talk about perhaps what you're here for, what's going to come in the first half of 2026. We are going to finish up with a quick review of what we did, some significant things that we brought forward in 2025. You never know, if something might be new to you, and something might excite you that maybe you were too busy and you missed. So we're going to do a quick review at the end of that, and then, given time, we will open up for your questions. And at any time during our presentation, you can put those questions in the question box, or you can put them in the chat, and we'll be watching. And in the time that we have at the end, we'll address as many of these as we can. So I expect, as you might, Ed, that most of the people here, because it's a roadmap for us, are customers, and that's always exciting to us to get to talk to our customers and present things. But I think it is good to maybe level set with a quick description of Sauce Labs. Um, uh, with almost 2 decades of experience, where we've evolved into what we think is the de facto enterprise standard for top brands, whether they're in regulated or unregulated industries. And we know that in part because many of our customers have been with us for over a decade, which is a lifetime in tech. And they know that we're a trusted partner for enterprises because we work with so many that operate at massive scale and require the highest levels of reliability and security. If you know anything about our past, you know that we come from the Selenium open source community and functional testing, but that we never stop innovating. That's where we're from. And with recent acquisitions and development, we've moved from a disparate set of device testing solutions to a unified open cloud platform for continuous quality. And so you, as customers, can now practice quality along the full SDLC, whether you're shifting quality left and earlier in the build stage or shifting right to production monitoring. We support the most popular test automation frameworks, and we're integrated across the dev tool chain and the test automation pipelines. And of course, we support our customers with a full range of professional services, support tiers, documentation, and ad hoc learning experiences like this hot sauce webinar series.
And we can go further because obviously we're going to talk a lot about AI today. So
We
beyond all this is more.
very much so. As a matter of fact, for us, AI is not just a checkbox. It's the next frontier in testing. And we're working to set the standard for quality in this new AI first world. We're focused on ensuring that you get the most value from agentic AI, but we also make sure that we have the right guardrails and security in place.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Larry. As we think about the vision that we have for AI from a product perspective, we spent a lot of time thinking about where AI fits the best. Meaning, we wanted to be selective with deep research with our customers in the market, but be really thoughtful about where we apply this technology within our platform, within the workflows for our customers, because ultimately, bringing AI into this practice is really about our customers and how we solve their existing pain points. How do we meet them where they are struggling with bottlenecks in work, or how do we increase their velocity and their capacity to produce quality products? So in all of that, we spent a lot of time really debating and thinking about where AI fits best, not necessarily where AI could be applied. And it's a slight different nuance there to make sure that we apply it in the right places at the right times to make sure we get the outcomes that are going to be very beneficial to our customers.
Exactly. I mean, we're not sitting around saying, "Hey, that's an interesting thing. Let's figure out how we can apply AI to it." We're
Indeed.
actually we spend a lot of time talking with customers to figure out where the greatest pains are and where we can put our engineering efforts in to address these the most important ones first. And let's talk about let's first just address some of what we see when we talk to customers about the challenges. Some of the major ones that we see people talking about, their their engineering groups are generating code through AI now with increased speed, and quality can become the bottleneck as you get more and more code piling up. It's like that old Lucy uh, television episode where all the chocolates are just getting faster and faster, and quality is trying to keep up, right? We know, for example, talking with our customers, that 30% of the time of engineers or more is spent working on scripts, and those scripts can be brittle because if there's a change in the UI, there's a change in the platform, they have to rework the script. So even more time is spent. We know that some of our customers are expanding out beyond testing to include other people like digital marketers, people like business analysts or product owners that aren't typically involved or trained in testing, and they want them to be able to do testing on products and understand what needs to be corrected or what needs to be done. And finally, we also know because we really are about data that with test automation, our customers face an overwhelming amount of data. And the question is, as data piles up more and more, what do you do with it? I was talking with one customer, Ed, and they said that they do 500,000 tests a day. That's crazy,
Yeah,
the amount of
yeah.
data that there is. So when we hear these things and we learn these things, we want to address them. And here's some of the ways that we're thinking about it. First of all, let's bring equal velocity to quality through the purposeful, as Ed was saying before, the thoughtful application of AI agents. Let's replace the most time-consuming activities that we hear about with AI-driven automation, and but let's do it in a way that's reflective of how real users would create scripts, for example. We want to do this in a natural way, using natural language that poses what the needs are and what the script should do, and so it's not some sort of automaton that's just running through, I need to do this and this and this, but it's a thoughtful approach. And finally, I think this is important when I talked about that immense amount of data is using AI to add context to that data, which would then allow a much better understanding of root cause analysis of things like flakiness, things like test failures, and so forth. So
Yeah, and thinking about over time, think about different parameters you want to investigate. I mean, there's so much there when it comes to data. It's massive.
yeah, and so to address that data issue, the first product that we came out with was Sauce AI for Insights. We released this in December. We've been working on it for a while. And we know that when we talk to our customers again, engineering and QA teams are spending their valuable time sifting through logs, reports, and dashboards just to find the answers to key questions around test health and application quality. So Sauce AI for Insights is our answer to that overwhelming volume of test data. It's an intelligent AI-powered assistant that's designed to transform raw test data into we like to think about as actionable intelligence. It tells you things that you can act on. At its core, it gives teams the power to ask questions in natural language, such as, what do all these test results mean? What should I expect? And you can get immediate contextual and tailored answers, all without having to navigate multiple tools that are outside, let's say, the platform, or write manually complex queries, or write them manually. So it's built for action, helping you to go from a root cause to practical information that you can apply to improving the product and speeding delivery. It's predictive analytics for on-demand answers. And one of the things I think that's really worth mentioning around Sauce AI for Insights is that it provides role-based insights. So, for example, let's say you're a tester. Okay, this can be a game changer for daily workflows. It helps you go from a failed test to root cause in seconds through the dialogue and asking what questions you want to ask, and surfacing things like flaky tests or a newly failing build. It means less time spent on tedious analysis and more time on high value testing. Now, for developers, it can help with velocity, and that's so critical, especially when we're talking about some of those challenges that I referenced before around speed and keeping quality at speed. So when a test fails, developers can get a direct link to the relevant test case. They can see the root cause analysis, and then they can understand the context without leaving the workflow. And it gives them the rapid feedback they need to shorten the debug cycle and make fixes faster. And the last group, Ed, I think that's important. I'm sure out there we have some of the leaders of our customers, and for you on the management, the leader side, it gives you a high level strategic view of the entire testing process. You can ask questions about overall release health. You can track key quality metrics and get predictive analytics to identify potential risks before they become a problem. So this isn't just, say, a technical tool for the practitioners to use. Anyone can go in and explore throughout the data and learn the answers to the questions that they're asking. So ultimately, Sauce AI for Insights, it's about three things. It's about one, it's about boosting efficiency in engineering by removing that data overload. It's about increasing your team's velocity of innovation and get insight to action faster. And third, it's about strengthening risk management by ensuring this consistent and accurate view of quality and essentially making your data a strategic asset, not a burden. So we've moved here. You can see this is the interface now. You're probably familiar with this. This is our home, and we you can see the little the little orange squares in each of the widgets now. You will see um, a little starburst. That's
The
the
AI
indi
sparkle
a
everyone loves.
sparkle. Yeah, the sparkle. That's the indicator for our Sauce AI. And if you don't have it, I think you see it, but it's grayed out. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct,
Yeah.
correct. The disabled gray is there, but what's fascinating here is, and you touched on it, Larry, the idea that we can now talk at the data, which is the way I love to describe this, right? We can have a conversation with data, which is a fascinating world. But the roles and the different use cases will drive different questions. So you're right, a practitioner, a single developer, a QA persona will need to get down to a root cause of a single test, and that's actually quite valuable. A manager or even the C-suite might be looking at trends or quality levels or speeds of builds, or the questions can continue if you like. And I think what's fascinating is not only is each role going to have their own vantage and want to get their own view of this data, which of course AI lends itself beautifully for massive data sets and looking at it. But the other thing that's going to be really awesome is as our customers start to go down this road and start analyzing this data and getting those insights and making adjustments, the questions will change. So a good example is one of our
Mm.
customers was trying to figure out why they were having a bottleneck or if they had a bottleneck at a certain time of the day on a certain day of the week. They thought that, but they weren't able to really put their arms around it because the data was too big and they couldn't really look at it right. But as soon as we applied this tool, they're like, ah, we see that on this day at this time, we, as the customer, not Sauce Labs, have a restraint on our side and we are causing failures because of that restraint. And now that they've identified it, they can adjust, which means tomorrow, as that bottleneck goes away, they have new questions. So they can start
Yeah.
anew with the same
Mhm.
data and have new questions that they need to answer. And that continues to evolve, which is super exciting about how insights will help people make those evolutionary steps forward.
Yeah, and there's some great features baked into this as well. There we if when you're new to it, or if you're thinking where do I start, we have some prompts built in. We also have a prompt guide that we created that we have for our customers that helps walk through how do I start this? What's the best way? The box itself can go away and return with the same conversation in it, so you don't lose anything if you shut it down and you're focused on other things. There's you can see one of the visualizations there. We have charts and graphs and so forth to help really bring the data out. And Also, if you don't like the answer you get, we actually you can there's a little indicator and you can let us know. That helps us to understand how to keep improving the product. And as you'll hear later on, as Ed's going to talk, we have a lot of ambitions for Sauce AI for Insights. We've got any number of things we're going to be adding to it in the beginning of this year. So it's a I want to say it's a little bit addictive when I sit in on it and I'm playing around even with just test data. It's amazing what you can find out and how you can get to the answers.
Yeah, no, it totally is, and it's also from a product management perspective, my world. The products are never done, so this creates a whole new greenfield area for us to explore what else we can build, what else we can create. I think the concept of AI itself has opened up windows and doors that were previously unavailable to us. Again, looking at this flow here would be nearly impossible to build with traditional software. So very exciting that we can take some really big steps forward by
Yeah.
putting some language models to these processes.
Yeah, two final things on this. One, I want to note that knowing the market as a product marketer, there is nothing like this out there. The way we think about data as a company, the way we think about how to give you what you need to understand and move quickly in your work, um, no one's doing this. There's some AI created reports. There's maybe even a little AI advice, but to be able to dig into the data and get contextual answers is unique to what we're able to offer the market. And you may be asking at this point, this is the second thing I was going to bring up. You may be asking, well, how do I know about the data? How do I trust the data? What's going on? Is it a black box? I don't want to get in the weeds, but once you understand that you have so much data that we collect it in our data plane, and that's what we call Sauce AI, really our intelligent data plane. We collect all this data and we contextualize it. We give it content, we give it metadata, we create it and craft it and use AI to then be able to deliver it to you to be able to ask the questions that you do. So this is your data. This is yours alone, and we're massaging it, we're aligning it so that you can quickly get complex, you can get answers to complex questions that you have. And this is, I guess, the best way to think about what's going on in the background. Would you add anything to that, Ed?
Not only that, one of the things that's really interesting about AI, and when we say AI, that's a pretty broad science, and we normally think about like the ChatGPT style AI of generative AI or some natural language processing AIs. And in this case, we're using some of that technology, but also, as you mentioned earlier, it's very guardrailed because this is your data, the customer's data, and no more, no less. So we're not thinking about how we can generate more data per se, but we can analyze and display the results there. So for example, you're a customer that does all those tests. We're not going to imagine what tomorrow might be and how many more tests they might do and what that might look like yet. We're not there. We're talking about let's analyze where you are. So these are what's called very deterministic results,
Mm,
which is a challenge in AI because there's undetermined, non-deterministic results, which is the generative AI side, where you can create things. But if you asked Gemini similar questions over and over again, you're going to get slight variations of those answers. They'll never be the same, and that's intentional. In here, because we're talking about data and the customer's data and the runs that they've done in that sort of world, it is actually quite deterministic. So it's nice that you can trust that output purely
mm.
because it's just the data underneath the cover. So very exciting, and I think it's important to point out that that is very trustworthy from that perspective. So very excited.
Yeah, that's AI. That's AI for insights. What else do we have, Ed?
Well, the other tool we're working on, which is actually currently in beta, is our authoring tool. So we talked earlier about different things around AI, and for us, authoring is another area for our customers where there is just a lot of lift to build and maintain test cases. So we've applied an AI agent with its own actual training and logic beneath the covers to bring to our platform an ability to create a streamlined process to create test cases and manage them using sort of our built-in logic around relevant and validated output, which I'll touch on in a minute. But this has been unlike other tools you may see in the market, and certainly there are plenty of Gen AI tools that can create things. We're doing it purposely built for test automation. And just a simple example of that is just thinking about, say, traditional web apps and how most of them, based on some European laws, now have this little pop up for cookies. So we see it all the time and we think nothing of it to accept those and move on. But we had to teach our agent that that's a concept in web products that you should understand and deal with. So if I gave you a set of instructions, you could understand that I may have to get by that without telling it first. So it's smarter than just regular AI tools that don't quite have that context. So building it purposefully was really important for us um, as we're building this tool. And as we pop into what the UI is at the moment, I just wanted to point out kind of what we've done and why we've done it. So here you can see that our tool in the lower left can take a simple URL or a build that's in our platform, take some natural language prompts, and turn that into an actual test case. And as we were designing this and building it and talking to customers, one thing different than insights is there is a logic that we're applying. So let's take a case of a e-commerce site. If you need to apply to buy a product, a backpack, and put it in the shopping cart, those are pretty simple words that we all kind of understand. But if we're going to build a test case that actually has steps to do this, what we really wanted to expose is how we were doing it. And we call that reasoning, which you see in the upper left. And it was really important to us to show to our users what we're thinking, what the agent is thinking as it's going through this process. So you can kind of get what it's doing and understand if that logic holds. And again, this all comes back to a feedback loop. If we've got some bad logic, we're making bad decisions, how do we learn from that collectively and make it better tomorrow? So that's the reasoning panel. In the middle, this is actually our website. You can see that it would actually run the app that you've asked it to run, and it would go through the steps, and it would show you these steps in real time. And that's just capturing the test steps that it's going to create. And then the other functions of this is to either make a test case, which is the output and it's saved in our platform, or it can make actual code like Python or JavaScript or Java, which you could then export and use in your own framework. But the other nice thing about doing it here is that once this test case is created, then you can immediately run it in sauce at scale across multiple browsers and configurations. So as
Hmm.
we go all the way back to what Larry was talking about, is the sort of citizen tester is a term we really like. We're now describing that a citizen tester who has no coding ability, doesn't know anything about Sauce Labs actually, could come in here, build a test case, run it, fundamentally cross-browser testing, for example, and get results without knowing how to do anything or write a line of code and get to whether it's a pass-fail scenario. So it's super exciting how we're going to expand what we can do in our platform beyond the traditional use cases of developers and QAs that write framework code or things like that. So it's super exciting where this is going, and we've got a lot more ideas around test authoring. Right now, we're actually working on sort of test case management, sort of just structuring of test cases so you can run them as suites. And I'll touch on some more in a minute. But I wanted to ask you, Larry, any other things that you find sort of really exciting about this initiative here?
Well, I probably am bucketed into that citizen developer kind of area because when I'm playing around with it, I what I enjoy is that dialogue that you mentioned on the left side where it's telling me, "Hey, I think I'm going to look around for this button," or I understand that when I need to register for a site, I'm going to look around. Oh, I found it, and I'm going in there now. It gives you the blow by blow, but very quickly. These things, when you think about trying to create a test like this, it can take a long time to code it, right? And this is just taking minutes at most to walk through, but walk through in that way that I described earlier, where it's in its mind. It's like it follows the intent like a real user. And the only thing I can say is you get that when you see what it's telling you, when it's what telling you in the dialogue and how it works through and what you can see on the screen. And it really does open up a lot of testing to a lot of different people, which is
Yeah,
very,
no, you're
yeah.
you're right on. And I think you mentioned something that I think was really critical is here we're asking the citizen tester or developer, if you like, what is the intent of the test? And it's so important because one of the things that there's this sort of idea and I think people have this general idea about AI. It's a magic box, and we can just put anything in that box, and magic will come out of it. But in fact, what we want to know is what are you trying to accomplish? What is that intent? And that's super important as we think about the reasoning and the logic and what we build as a test case. It's not just here's a URL test and end of request. We got to know what
Mhm.
we're trying to accomplish, which also helps think about the support use cases or things like that, which are quite pointed. And they need to know, hey, I got this problem that was reported in a certain way. I want to test that very specific scenario, not all the scenarios. So it helps sort of feel out some of those issues. But having the intent is so critical, and it's critical to us for both reasoning creating test case, but also how we build on top of that down in 2026. So
Yeah.
very, very good point there. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, last point here, Ed. If this whets for the people who are watching, if this whets your appetite to learn more, just remember that in March, one of our hot sauce webinars is going to cover this topic in depth. So there's a lot more to say. We're in at the time of this recording, we're in a closed beta with a lot of customers, and we're getting great feedback. So yeah, so this will be out and in your hands very soon.
Yes, yes, yes. And of course, we'll have more features and functionalities when we get to March and beyond. So it'll be very exciting to see where we've exposed where we've grown to by then.
Excellent. Let's talk about the just before we finish up with AI and we get into the what's coming in H1. Let's just talk about our go forward vision here because um, as we said in the beginning, we're being very purposeful, intentional in where we're going with AI. We're not just applying it willy-nilly. And so, what you can see here laid out are the various different products that we have around crash and error reporting, around visual testing, around the end-to-end functional testing that we do, even mobile app distribution, and the goal for Sauce AI, this collection of agents, and this data layer, is to be able to bring things all together, be able to bring AI to areas where it's most needed, and deliver that as native AI products to our customers.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting, and I think, as you point out, really important here as we think about these different corners of this graph. We're going to bring this tool in where it makes sense, where we can leverage it and get a lot of value out of it. So super excited to see how that continues to evolve, not in just the first half, but of course beyond. And when we think about our platform, just really quickly, we sit traditionally in the middle of this graph here with our testing capabilities across the entire SDLC, whether that's functional or visual testing, obviously some beta testing, accessibility, and all the way out to production and crash and error reporting. And as we think about what we did this year, adding this sauce intelligence layer, which is that data layer we talked about earlier, exposing some new APIs and some new agents, AI agents and modules, that creates that intelligence layer, which then we can lay on top of that, of course, our new tools, and sort of the nested tools will build on top of sort of the data that's underneath it and what we can do with it. So it's super exciting to see how this builds up from where we were. But of course, we'd be remiss not to remind everyone that as a platform, as Soft Labs, the platform, we always think about the other pieces of this puzzle because AI is a beautiful new horizon, but being extensible in our integration strategies, being scalable across our data centers, and being obviously secure for our customers, and that's all customers, of course. Always top of mind to what we're doing and designing. And clearly, when we think about integrations, we've got a lot of different frameworks, integrations we need to support to make sure our customers are successful. So, really critical that it's not just AI all the time. We've got a lot of other things that we're doing that's
Mhm.
really important to kind of
We
hold it all
are.
together. Yeah,
Let's cover some of those.
sure. So I'm going to drive into the roadmap for the first half, and talk a little bit about where we are planning on going. And of course, as noted earlier, we're always talking about our safe harbor, and this is the plan. So go with us on this journey, and know that we've got a lot of these things in mind, and there's obviously a lot more things we want to do. But this is sort of the top 10 things that I wanted to share today to think about for this year. So, first up, for authoring, self-healing is going to be sort of the next horizon for us, and this is really important. We know in practice, creation of test cases is is very labor intensive. Maintenance is like a 10x to that problem. So we know that there's a huge problem on maintenance. So every time you change your app, you got to go change all your automation. So bringing self healing to that will really help our customers uh, get past sort of all that lift, but also make their testing less brittle and won't break as easily. So that's something we know is super important. For insights, we got a couple things. We touched on personalization. We know how important that's going to be for each role to have their own insights that make sense to them. Think about their own dashboards, their own reporting, their own alerts, those kinds of things. But as we think about insights in general, getting deeper into the root cause, speeding up that process of understanding where the defects are and how to quickly resolve them, really creates velocity that we're super excited about. The next big AI function for us is going to be around error reporting. So our
Yeah.
error reporting is our tool for in the wild in production crash and error reporting. And one of the unique things about error reporting in the wild is, of course, the number or the amount of data. If we think 500,000 tests a day is a lot, you should see what gaming does when you've got 5 million users using your game every minute of every day and what kind of data sets you can create from that. So it's very different kinds of data too, because you want a lot of more signal than noise in that case. They're not tests with a result. They're people using it with lots of results. So if we think AI for insights on your testing has a lot of room to understand trends in that thing, imagine data sets that are fundamentally 100 times bigger and much more radically moving, how you can learn from those quickly. On yeah, Larry?
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's very similar to what we were talking about with AI for insights in terms of,
Mm,
getting into that data. How do you prioritize which crashes, which errors are most important, right? I mean, if you have 1,000 of the same thing happening, how do you sort through that data? AI is going to be helping to do that, to organize it, to be able to put forward the answers that save you from a lot of intense queries.
yeah, for
So
sure, for sure.
very
It's super
similar.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Next up is real device API. So we've actually created and we'll release an API for real devices where people can start to interact down in the operating system level and do commands that are physically impossible on the phone as it is today because you're blocked from access to certain parts of the phone. We are with this API, you could generally create tests that would be nearly impossible to create without this kind of access. So we're very excited to help our customers get into much more nuanced testing that could not be done prior to this. So it's really exciting how this is going to help us on the real device side get a
Yeah.
lot closer to these problems.
Yeah, there are so many use cases for this API. I mean, there's around observability, around, one of the things it can do is it can keep open a session for 24 hours. So you can, instead of it just session ending when you finished your script, when you can go deep. You can look at logs. You can look at all sorts of information to really get to understand what's going on when you run your script. And so it's very programmatic, very hands-on, very detailed. For like you mentioned gaming before. This is a great example of what gaming companies need to be able to go in and get that kind of detail that you can't do when you have a more rigid framework like Appium. And so we're excited about this, and we will be talking about this one next month.
Yeah, and I think this is where we start to have people try to do things like limit network throttling or reducing battery coverage or whatever, and it just can't really be done in a lab the way it's designed. But now you can force those scenarios in, and now you can see how your applications react in more real world or near real world environments. So it's super exciting. Next up, we are in the process of building and will have an India data center for real devices this year. This is something we have actually been thinking about for a while, and we've just made the investment to move our testing infrastructure closer to a part of the earth where there is a lot of testing that goes on for a lot of our customers. So making that available, removing that latency, all that will speed up our customers' testing, which is always one of our goals here at Sauce Labs. And then speaking of speeding up, Android, we're working on a premium cloud offering. So we've actually partnered with Google, which means they've sort of opened up the curtain, let us see a little bit behind what they're working on and what they're doing. And we're going to build, and we actually are about, say about halfway through building a premium Android cloud as a service, which will then be the fastest Android cloud in the world when we're done for our customers to test their Android apps. So that'll be very exciting how we do that, which kind of partners with what we've done on the Apple side this year, which we'll talk about in a minute, to bring both of those offerings into availability and processing powers that were previously unavailable.
Yeah, like
Next,
a lot
next,
of
yeah, go ahead.
I bet I would bet money that a lot of the customers here in the last year moved to our premium cloud for the
Mm,
speed that it offered. It's the ARM infrastructure and all, and we're just going to continue to bring some richness to that offering through the Android piece.
yeah, yeah, and I think getting closer to Google helps us find those areas where we can really expand the cloud speeds and processing power. So super excited about that. Uh, Adding Chrome OS support as an offering for us in our cloud architecture will allow us to support a whole new sort of OS and infrastructure that we haven't had before. Chrome OS is incredibly popular in certain industries, and we've had plenty of customers who want to test there. So we're really, really happy to be able to meet them where they live and breathe every day on Chrome. We're adding manual accessibility testing, something that's not really possible other than getting your own devices and doing them on your desk, but bringing this to the cloud where you can physically do your accessibility testing on a device manually and see what's happening. And as someone personally who's gone through a little bout of vision problems in the last couple of weeks, I have a new appreciation for accessibility testing and accessibility tools. So it's really important for us to bring that out to the market because it's important for accessibility and your accessibility needed users. And then lastly, we're working on a new concurrency management tool for our customers so they can manage their assets in our cloud more effectively across their organization and their testing practices. As we know, that's always a need to manage your assets effectively across your needs, and we want to make that a little easier on our customers.
Yeah, it opens it up so you can understand how much you've used and what's going
Yeah,
on. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Awesome. Okay. And then very quickly, sort of a look at 2025
yeah. We had a great
and what
year.
we, yeah, no, it was a good year. It was really exciting. And we've talked about AI a lot. So over the past half a year, if you think of the back half of 25, we spent a lot of time building sort of the insights, the authoring, and the data layer that we needed to make Sauce AI come to life. And then part of that was putting in a new Sauce homepage, which we showed you earlier, which is really the hub for our insights tool. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of infrastructure that we did there to bring AI to the market. And we'll continue to invest there, of course. But some other things that were really important last year, we normally of our business, keeping our OS and browsers up to date, is always part and parcel of the business. So we did 42 major releases last year of
Wow.
operating system and browsers. Yeah, huge undertaking. It's funny when I reflect back on that number, it's like every week, if we kind of put it in that perspective,
It's true.
about weekly, we got this thing that we have to do. But it's important. And even there and in our device cloud, there were things we did last year which were very day one. So different operating systems, different browsers. First day it's on the public market is the first day it's in our cloud. We did that with some devices last year. First day they were for sale. The first day we plugged them into our data centers. We're trying to be at the market when it's moving in these spaces. We're right there with them. So really important to us, but also feels like it's that thing we just do. We just do it every day. So I wanted to highlight that. Larry mentioned earlier the Silicon Cloud. So our Apple infrastructure got an update to the new Mac ARM Silicon architecture, which now becomes the fastest cloud we've ever had for Apple, and the processing speed and power there is, oh God, it's 5x what it was. So it
Oh
is
yeah.
off the charts fast, and what you can do with it. And we're really happy that we were able to make that investment. Because again, as we start to reduce testing time, boot up times, all these things that just take time, that allows our customers to think differently about their velocity, that they're not waiting all the time. So it's sort of really great advancement there. On mobile app distribution, which is our tool for beta testing, we spent a lot of time building our own architecture around scalability and thinking about how we can grow that part of our offering to meet our largest enterprises and the scale that they're working on. So we invested very heavily to make sure that that was supported for the large enterprise. It's been used very heavily in our gaming space for beta testing, but we're also starting to see large organizations
Yeah.
want to do more beta testing. Although it's, as you think about regulated industries, it's a little trickier. But these large organizations want to do more beta testing, and we're super excited to meet them where they need to be from a scalability perspective.
Yeah, some of our retail customers and how they roll
Yeah,
out.
for sure.
They rely on it um, in ways that the scale of what they do is pretty amazing. So
Yeah,
making those kinds of changes, working on that to address the large scale rollouts, that was a great accomplishment.
yeah, for sure. On the visual side of our solution, we added two functions which are really important. One is PDF support as part of your visual testing, but also the Figma plugin, which connects your source of truth, which is your Figma design, to your visual tests. So making sure we've got the actual right route of what your test should look like, getting it into visual without any manual handoffs. Really nice streamline for that flow. We exposed error-free alerts, which is sort of the when apps crash, you want to know about it. So the metric in the market, in the app market, is error-free. So we adopted that, but being able to do that in much more real time, really important for people who have the zero downtime kind of apps, or that expectation, and how they can keep track of all that. And obviously, you can see how that flows up into AI for this year. And then lastly, we added service accounts last year, which is really important for our friends that do automation, that do large scale integrations. Instead of using personal accounts, we have service accounts for our customers, and that means they don't have to worry about sort of that breaking as people come and go. So
Yeah,
really, really, really good
very
changes.
convenient.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So before we
Okay.
before we go, I just want to, we talked about so many things here, and we always want you, our customers, to stay current. And there's lots of different ways you can do this. We have the change log on our website, which is really the equivalent of the product announcements. You see the little bell there that you have inside the platform in the upper right. You'll see these little notices. anytime we update, whether it's a new OS or whether it's a whole new product like AI for Insights, these are things that we try and let you know as they're happening. But just want to remind you that it's really there at your fingertips. You have an account manager who is always glad to talk with you and talk through some of these products, the implications, maybe even help you get into a beta if it's appropriate. And I know they reach out regularly, but they're the right person to talk to about that. We have a customer newsletter. We just actually came out this week, our latest one, and you can, if you aren't signed up for it, you can go in to the platform using this navigation, and you can go in and you can just check off a box and start receiving that, and that will also be a great set of news for you about all the things that we're doing, and of course, following us on social.
Otherwise, have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you.